Second, select board meeting. Are we rolling the tape, Connor?
Yes.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. As chairperson of the Barrington Select Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with that emergency order, I'm confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional possibilities by video and other electronic means. We're utilizing Microsoft Teams for this electronic meeting. All members of the Select Board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting. Phone participation can take place by dialing 1-603-664-0240 and entering conference ID 676-749-973 hashtag or pound. Video participation can take place by typing in bit.ly/BARR, B. We're providing this public notice of necessary information for accessing the meeting. We've previously given notice to the public for necessary information for accessing the meeting, and instructions are provided on the town website. We're providing mechanism for the public to alert this public body during the meeting if problems should arise to that access. If problems arise to that access in the event that the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting taking a roll call vote. I think that select person Air is absent, so each roll call vote will begin with select person Bailey.
Bailey, aye. Bailey's, I'm at 19 Chesley Drive. I'm in my office. My wife is downstairs, but there is nobody here to influence my vote.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Select person Knapp, 96 Lindsay Point Road. I'm still on the East Coast. It's not nearly as bright in my office as it is in Mr. Bailey's. So I am in the office here at the house, and there is my wife and son in the house, but out doing their thing.
Very good.
Chip Scotia, 21 James Henry Drive. I'm in the house alone with my dogs.
Very good. And Tracy Hardikoff, 48 Stone Farm Road. I am home with my dog, my husband at this time. It is likely my grown son will enter the house at some point, but no one will influence my vote. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. So tonight in our public hearings, we have some appointments of planning board applicants, Robert Buddy Hackett and Candace Kranz. And I'm hoping that we might just hear a little bit about why you might be interested in an appointment to the planning board. Let's see, is Robert Buddy Hackett available? And if you are, can I ask you to unmute and give us some background and some insight into your interest?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, so I am unmuted. I will give you sort of a brief bit of my resume. I went to a Catholic high school in Massachusetts. After that, I went into the Marine Corps. I spent just shy of 9 years in the Marine Corps, traveled all over the world from the 80s into the 90s. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to Norwich University up in Vermont military school. And from the early 90s on till just recently, I did sales. I was on the road salesperson. I sold heavy equipment. The last 11 years of my sales experience was with a company out of Maine, actually, and we did a lot of business with municipalities, cities, towns, and states. And I was responsible for the state of New Hampshire. So I have a pretty good working knowledge of let's say, municipal business and protocol and whatnot. I am currently owner partner of Renaissance Firearms here in Barrington. So going through the process of the planning board, intimately familiar with that. I feel that with my background and my attention to detail and my, I'm going to say, thinking outside of the box, I could be a very good benefit to the planning board. I tend to look at things as start off as big picture, say a 20-story view, and then drill down through them so nothing gets missed. And I've been living in Barrington now for 7 years. I have a 12-year-old son who he's in the 6th grade, so I'm also involved in a lot of things involving school and in the community. We, as a business, are very involved in the community. Prior to COVID, we did a lot of, I'll say, in-person fundraising type events. We used to have Friday night drive-ins where we would select a local charity and they would benefit from, you know, whatever we did for fundraising. And some of the local businesses or entities, I'll say, like the Barrington Food Pantry, they benefited very often from what we had to do. And the furthest that we went away from, I'm going to say, our local community was we've had interactions with the New Hampshire Veteran Cemetery, because the Veteran Cemetery is federally funded and has some state funding, but they don't have enough to get by. So they have a cemetery association that we've been trying to be as helpful as we can with them as well too. Being a combat veteran, and my partner, he's also a Marine Corps veteran. We have hired many veterans in town. We've taken our business from 5 employees to 17 employees over the past, April will be a year that we've had a big increase. We just leased our building, and now we purchased the building this year. We added an indoor shooting range as well too. So what we're trying to do is bring education and practice, awareness, and you know, general goodwill among the shooting community and people who are potentially in the shooting community.
Excellent.
So coming from a lot of people didn't understand what we were trying to do, and we really had to, from nuts and bolts, explain everything that we had to do in our process. So going through that process was educational. It was exciting at some points. It was frustrating at other points, but we got to where everyone approved of what we were doing, and it was great to see the community support that was behind us. So I don't know if I've droned on too much or not, but that's kind of where I've been from, I'll say, from my teens to where I am now.
Excellent.
And I do have quite a amount of free time. I'll actually add to my business. I retired from business at the age of 48. My aim was to retire before I was 50, so I made that. And I was retired for about 7 days. So I couldn't stand still, couldn't sit still. And I went right back into doing other things. And when this came around, this opportunity, it was something that it was big in my past and something that I had a great working knowledge of. And we seem to be doing pretty well right now with that. And
very good. Thank you, buddy. Do we have Candace Kranz? And if you're out there, Candace, I think you are, because I see. Yep, wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, your interest in the planning board?
Sure. Thank you, Tracy. I assume everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So my name is Candace Kranz. I live obviously in Barrington on Hall Road. We purchased our house about 2 years ago now, so relatively new to the community, but lived in Dover prior. I have a master's degree in business management with a concentration in energy management as well. Previously worked for the Town of Hampton Planning Department, Town of Hampton Assessing Department. I took meeting minutes from everything to the zoning board to school board. I was a member of the Beach Commission in the Town of Hampton as well. Currently, I am employed full-time at Bean Group and have been for the last 10 years. We're a real estate company in Portsmouth. I'm a licensed realtor there. Although I don't sell, I mainly do logistics. I am the director of relocation and accounting at that firm. Additionally, I have notary public. I am a justice of the peace and really just sort of looking to become a little bit more involved in the community. My husband and I have 2 young children, and I've always really wanted to kind of jump in and get more involved. And I really enjoyed my time at the Town of Hampton in the planning department specifically. I got to sit on for a lot of really controversial applications and really understand the difference between public comment and opinion versus interpreting what the zoning code actually said and the intent of the codes in the town. So some of those projects were, knocking down the old cinema to put up a drugstore, the Slutty Nose Brewery project, things like that. So I had a really great first-hand working knowledge in that planning department and also through the assessing department as well. So I'm very familiar with New Hampshire RSA, zoning codes, and sort of how these meetings work. And of course, the level of responsibility included in being a board member, and would be really excited to be considered.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. The next appointment will be voting on our candidates after tonight's meeting. Go ahead, George.
We're going to vote on the candidates after tonight's meeting?
Yep, it's on slated for next meeting.
And I will note that there are currently 2 openings. So there are 2 available positions on the planning board. And so appreciate the candidates giving an intro to the board. And at the next meeting on March 8th, the select board will consider making those appointments.
Excellent. Thank you.
Tracy,
Yes.
would you entertain or would the board entertain a motion to make both candidates full members after reviewing their bios and having heard from them?
I'm perfectly comfortable if there's a second on that. I have a second from George Bailey. So yes, absolutely. I'll take a roll call vote beginning with select person Bailey.
Bailey, aye.
Nap aye.
Sakoshai.
Hardikoff, aye. Absolutely. Welcome to the planning board, Buddy and Candace.
Thought George was going to fall out of his chair.
Thank you.
And next up is the raffle permit request by the Nipple Lake Association. Go ahead, Jim.
I would like to make a motion to accept.
Oh, okay. Without any further discussion, I have a first and I have a second by select person Bailey. Do I have a roll call vote beginning with select person Bailey, please?
Bailey, aye.
Nap aye.
Sakoshai.
Hardikoff, aye. Motion carries. Raffle permit is going through. It is a nonprofit organization, yes?
They don't have to be nonprofits. They just
Oh.
have to be established. But yes, they qualify.
Okay, very good. As long as they qualify. Review of meeting minutes from the February 8th meeting. Any changes, concerns, questions? Go ahead, select person Bailey.
I was just going to move to accept.
And I have a second by select person Sakosha, as notified by the 2 or peace sign in the back corner, I see. Could I have a roll call vote, please, beginning with select person Bailey?
Bailey, aye.
Nap aye.
Sakoshai.
And Hardikoff, aye. We've accepted the meeting minutes. Under old business, I hope you all reviewed the goal setting. There are 2021 select board goals before you. Were there
Administrative report.
changes? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Could we just do staff reports real quick?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So I only have one thing. I know Tiffany has some items to announce for signature, but I wanted to make the board and the community aware that the town report has been completed. It's off for print, and we expect printed copies back this week. This is the grand reveal of the front cover, memorializing our experience through 2020. So you will see hard copies of this 2020 annual report at all of the usual locations around town, the library, Caliph's, George Caliph's, the town hall, etc. They'll also be available at voting as required by statute to be picked up. And the electronic copy will be available online once we receive the physical copies. So a lot of hard work went in from our volunteer members of the community, our department heads, our staff. Special thanks to Tiffany with close assistance from Peyton for pulling everything together. So a really awesome record of our year in review. That's all I have.
Excellent, thank you. And Tiffany?
Just a few things. Can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Fantastic. The meeting minutes, which were just approved for the meeting of February 8th, the 2 appointments that were just approved, and the raffle permit that was just approved. That's all we have.
Very good. Did we let the planning board new members know that they need to take their oath of office, and can they coordinate that with whom?
So
Tiffany
they
will be in
will.
touch.
Yep, I'll be in touch.
Okay, Tiffany will be in touch with them to take their oath of office and get everything signed.
And sorry,
Okay.
Chair, public comment also.
Yes. Oh, why do I always skip over this? I'm very interested. You have 15 minutes. The public can speak for 15 minutes in totality, 3 minutes per person, please. At this point in the meeting, I'll put a timer on. If you'd like to speak, you can press, is it *6 on your phone?
Yes.
Pause for a moment. There's a little bit of a delay, and then speak and let us know that you'd like to speak during public comment. You can also mouse over your screen. In the upper right-hand corner is a hand. Click on the hand. It will alert us that you'd like to speak. And at this time, I'll put 30 seconds on the clock. And if there is, no, I think there's a hand up.
I see 2 hands. First, I saw Chief Walker.
Okay, Chief, please go ahead.
I'm speaking on behalf of the 300th Anniversary Committee. Just giving you folks an update. We met last Monday. We've got stuff in place. We're looking to do something every month of the year, starting in January of 22, with an eye toward it's our hope that that we can schedule a meeting on the 10th of May, which is a Tuesday, not a Monday, in which we would coordinate reading the proclamation of the town. That was the date the town was incorporated. And it's our hope that we could perhaps dedicate the new town hall that night, have a formal dedication that night. And July 23rd is the kickoff for the week-long celebration, which will start with a parade. There'll be something going on every day that week. That's not been nailed down exactly what that's going to be, but we do intend to have that to be the big week, culminating with fireworks on the 30th, and then finish up the year with something, at least one thing every month. We want to work with all the different agencies in town and businesses in town to make 2022 a year to be a great time to be in Barrington. It's always a great time to be in Barrington, but it'll be a little more fun then. So there'll be more information as we put it together. We're
Excellent.
pretty excited about this.
Thank you, Chief.
Very
Thank
nice.
you for your extra service to that committee as well. Jim Scotia, your hand's up. Go ahead, 3 minutes.
Chief, don't forget me, all right? I want to help out with that. That sounds awesome. So reach out. I'll do what I can for you.
Yeah,
yeah.
Certainly you and other business have already inquired about helping out. So it's going to be big time. It's going to take a lot of people and a lot of support. So we certainly will be reaching out to you and plenty of other people to make this a great time.
Awesome. I wanted to have a brief moment of silence. Our select board member, Dan, he's going through some difficulties. He's in the hospital right now. So if you wish, you could say a prayer for him. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for thinking of him, Jim. Dan, your hand is up.
Yeah, just very quickly for Connor. I didn't catch the date when the 2020 report is going to be published and available in paper?
We expect it this Wednesday, the 24th. It's due by the 25th per our order, and by statute, it's due March 1st. So physical copies we expect to be available and distributed by this Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Any
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. My birthday. Thank you for.
Perfect. Any other public comments?
Yes,
I have a comment, if I may.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
go ahead,
That's on the
Peter.
phone.
This is Peter Royce, and I live on Carr Drive in Barrington, my fourth address at the same house. But I'm a member of the Barrington Transfer Station and Recycling Center Review Committee. And I want to start by saying Barrington totally relies on its volunteers. And we really need to accept their responsibilities and have some acknowledgement of the work they do. We've met every 3 weeks since March of 2020. Plus, we've donated time to other activities like like in-person surveys at the transfer station, aerial photographs, and gathering information from other sources on things that we're involved with. It really is extremely disappointing to me, and I believe most of the committee, that we really don't seem to be getting any support from the select board. While approving the recommended actions in a general sense, we really need more than that. We need some real support, which is to embrace what's needed to convince the community what needs to happen. So among our goals was to try to ensure Barrington residents get the most service possible for the lowest cost. The policies we've instituted are to protect the town from unauthorized use of the facility. And starting in the early 1990s, the town government has supported pay per bag recycling expense and prohibiting unlawful use of our facility. I asked the board to better support all the efforts of the Transfer Station Recycling Committee, and we have the same pay as you do, and we deserve your respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Peter, I'm not sure if it was conveyed to the committee, but I did write a letter of thanks to the committee today via Aaron for their hard work.
What we need is support from the board. We don't need any platitude of, yeah, we think you did a lot of work. We know we did a lot of work. But what we don't need is anyone saying, well, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that, because that just encourages more people to be negative. And we don't need that.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep.
We have any other hands up at this time?
I do not see any. Vice Chair Knapp.
Go ahead, Vice Chair Knapp.
Yep. My general comment will be is I also appreciate all the work the Transfer Station Committee has done. I absolutely support the work that they have done, but I also think we have to make sure we do our best to support every resident in this town for using our transfer station, and it doesn't mean impeding their ability to use it. But I will continue to support the work the Transfer Station Committee is doing.
Thank you for speaking as a resident. Any other hands up?
I do not see any.
Okay. Under old business is your 2021 goal setting for the select board. You had four proposed areas to cover, and you can roll with what's been proposed to you. You can make changes to what's been proposed to you. As a select board member, one of the areas I would recommend the select board take on, just like you took on a compensation study, I would suggest you take on a detailed analysis of your personnel manual and see if there are changes there that need to be updated. That would be one suggestion, but I will not speak to what you set for goals in 2021 since it will not impact me.
May I make a few comments on that, Tracy?
Absolutely.
Ideally, if we're gonna push, if you don't feel comfortable contributing to the goals, I would suggest that we have a framework for goals and then finalize them the week after the new member is on the select board.
I think it's a brilliant approach.
But looking at it initially, there were a couple items that stood out to me. Number 3 is not really a goal. I encourage respectful discourse and exchange of perspectives of thoughts and community. That's not a goal. That's just that's more of a mantra or a way to live for how we do, is that we should be encouraging that. And number 4, I felt was kind of fit in that same category. It's adapting and adjusting to life, but this isn't really a goal because it doesn't create a measured milestone for it.
So do you have recommendations, Andy? Like I made a recommendation on the personnel policy handbook update. Do you have recommendations?
Yep, I agree with the recommendation on the personnel policy and handbook. That is an area that should be on there. Also looking at it when I was going through the goals, ideally, I'd like to make sure we have a measurable way that we're supporting each functional department through the town. So a goal and objective and something measurable that we can take away from it or aid in supporting in it. When an area that stuck out to me was working with the road agent and an engineering consultant to develop a 10-year road improvement plan, which can be implemented utilizing the town's regular paving and road improvement budget. I like that. The only piece that it's missing is a timeline on it. So if we're following a SMART goal objective, we would want to have a timeline for when we're putting these items in place. So I liked those goals. The areas where I thought were missing were how we could better create some utilization and efficiency with regard to our town hall and town hall hours. I know we've done a lot to be flexible through the pandemic. So writing that out or documenting how we can better, what's a way we could improve upon that. And then we don't have anything that we're any way in here where we're supporting the rec. We talk about the library, but we don't have anything for recreation. And I think we should have something that becomes a measurable way for supporting rec as well. So those were the couple areas that stood out, but I didn't want to go speaking for the whole board as to how do we classify that, or without speaking really to the liaisons to the board, because I can tell you one of the big planning board chapter this year. So how do we support the planning board is the building and zoning piece that we're looking at is the whole town center proposal. Is that really set up the right way, and is that what it should be? So how does the select board help drive that that component with the planning board?
Tracy, if I could, just a couple of things.
Go ahead.
One, so the timing, as we talked about the last meeting, so I was, my attempt in the timing was to support the recommendation of the select board in order to integrate department head goals with select board goals.
Mhm.
And so the previous timing doesn't work for doing that. And what I heard at the last select board meeting is let's establish some goals, understanding that we can adjust them and we can update them with the new members. So I thought that's what the board had supported, and so that's why I proposed it in this way. The second thing is the reason for bringing it up at the last select board meeting was as a call to suggestions from select board members, of which I received some, which was terrific. So these goals were adaptations of what I heard from select board members.
Yep.
These aren't goals that were randomly created or pulled from anything. So select board members brought me an idea for a goal. I integrated that to a goal. So I'm certainly glad to hear additional suggestions for goals, Andy, and I can work those into the document. But that was the approach that I had intended to take for this. As far as the SMART goals, I don't disagree with you when we're talking about an individual or department head. The select board has tended not to be so specific with their goals, with the more larger reaching objectives of the town. So setting the policy direction opposed to very specific discrete items like you would see with a SMART goal. So certainly happy to adapt these into a SMART goal model, but that isn't what the select board's done before. And like I said, it's generally been more of a policy direction than a specific item. So we can do some of both, but that's just some of the justification behind how the goals were written.
Yep.
Excellent.
I can say 5 years ago when I came on here, we didn't work from goals, and getting to the point where we had a goal was a step forward.
Great.
But part of that is looking at what gets measured is what gets done. So how do we start creating a measure goal to actually hold ourselves accountable to as leaders of a organization, which is really what I look at, is the town is a big organization and is the representatives for it. How do we start holding ourselves accountable to help move that forward with the mindfulness of what people want, the budget that they expected in, and the time that it should be accomplished in.
Great.
Very good. Okay, so you'll be getting 2021 goals updated based on feedback. Anybody else on the select board have feedback of what they'd like to see added to the goal setting? Okay, so Connor, you've got some additional areas to work on and bring forward to the select board.
Yeah, so I guess maybe I would be curious for a little bit more direction, and we can take however much offline as you'd prefer. So number 3 was a suggestion from a select board member. I heard from Andy that he wouldn't like to see that as a goal from the select board. Is the consensus to remove or adapt that goal?
That is certainly an expected behavior, Andy, but I think that it's an important goal going forward that you continue to set that example so that in a nonpartisan, at a municipal level, that we're continuing to get the work done. You know, one of the remarkable things about being a group of 5 is we don't always agree with each other, but
Yep.
we're able to have excellent discussion and really be able to see each other's perspective, whether, we continue to vote in the manner in which we initially start or not. I just think it's important that we recognize that this volunteer elect group really does set the tone for how all other communication takes place.
Yep. I agree with that. There's a term for it, and it's not a goal. I'm trying to think of
Mission or vision statement.
Yeah, it falls more into
It's one of our values. If we were
Yes,
looking at us, it's one of our value statements.
Yes, it's a value.
Fabulous. Add a value statement. That's fine. Go ahead, select person Bailey.
Thank you very much. One of the things that I see coming out of number 3, and it's not specific there, but what I see is that when you talk about to set the example, part of that goes back to some of our public meetings that we had, and we must also turn around at the same time, even though we get upset at individuals that come before us, we have to remember that the 5 of us set the example. And I think that's on some of the cases, myself on one occasion spoke out in the wrong way. So I think we need to have that as a goal, so we remember that we do set the example so that everybody else on the board will follow it and not go the other way. I like that part of it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Connor.
Okay.
Okay, that's good direction.
Okay, so you've got a couple of additional areas of goal setting to look at and to draft. So next up is flexible spending accounts and dependent care assistance plan accounts. So in the course of reviewing this, the select board at the last meeting asked for a de-identified list of those 6 employees that had amounts that were over the 550 limit. So we have no idea who those people were, but we certainly saw the amounts. So I misunderstood the information that was being provided to us, and my biggest concern was that there was an unlimited time frame in which people could carry forward this amount of money year after year after year. And it's almost impossible historically to document that and to track it, as I have found in, other benefits programs in my past history. So I have since found out that it is a 1-year carryover of an unlimited amount. And I would make the suggestion to the board with the following caveat, that the employees be allowed to do the one-time unlimited carryover now that we've seen the amounts, and that into next year, any amount that they carried over that exceeded the 550, that next year's 2750 that they could propose be reduced by that amount. So it's a very simple, A subtract B means you may put this much aside in the following year. And so it will not carry forward or perpetuate itself into another year, but our employees would still not lose the benefit that they have taken from their own paychecks and placed into their savings accounts for purposes of medical or child care. And I see that Vice Chair Knapp has his hand up. Go ahead, Andy.
I was going to make a motion based, or second to motion if you were making a motion based on your experience and knowledge in this category.
So motion would be to allow the unlimited dollar amount of carryover into the following plan year, limiting the following plan year's 2750 maximum by the additional amount over 550 that was carried forward, allowing employees to not lose any of their savings accounts. And Andy, that's a second?
Yes, can you repeat that one more time, though? I just
So
want to make sure I'm understanding it
Each plan
correctly.
year, they have $2,750 that they can put aside from their own pay for the purposes of health or childcare.
Right.
Their flexible spending account for this year will not be reduced, and the money will not be taken from them. It will be carried over for one more plan year for them.
Right.
And only one more plan year. And next year's 2750, the maximum amount they could put aside, will be reduced by the amount that exceeds $550 in this year's carryover. So basically, the exception you're making this year, not to take away the money, they can't double it next year. It's going to reduce next year's maximum. Basically, the only thing we're accomplishing in this is we're giving them an additional 12 months to spend the money they put aside.
Right. So if I'm understanding it correctly, it's the 2750 plus their carryover amounts, which, looking at the
minus their carryover amount that exceeds 550.
So another way to say that is at the end of the next plan year, the carryover reduces back to 550, period.
Right. So the most you can have is 3,300. Because you can put 2,750 in for the year and you can carry 550 over, so you can do 3,300 a year, correct?
Okay, that you could say it that with 30, yeah. 30.
I just want to make sure I'm interpreting it correctly.
I think we're saying it in different ways, but I think you've got it, Andy. Yep.
I think our accounting is all accurate. Yes, Andy. So we have a first, we have a second. Could I have a roll call vote beginning with Select Person Bailey?
Bailey, aye.
Nap,
Thank
aye.
you. Jim, you're muted.
Sakosha, aye.
Thank you. And Hardikoff, aye. Motion carries. Thank you all. Under new business, Vice Chair Knapp had asked that the general election report that came out from the Secretary of State in regard to one of our municipalities in the state, Windham, New Hampshire, be disclosed and described by our town administrator. Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, so this is actually a really interesting story that hasn't really been, I think, widely disseminated across the state. But the community of Windham is experienced a dramatic, I say dramatic, it's 6% discrepancy in their vote totals from the general election last year. And so specifically what happened is after the results, one of the candidates who failed to win their election exercised their right to ask for a recount, all general election votes are recounted by the Secretary of State's office. So municipalities recount local elections, the state recounts general elections, state elections. And so when the Secretary of State hand counted the ballots, they found a pretty dramatic swing in the votes. It was the swing was the opposite direction as the candidate who called for the general or called for the recount. So the candidate that lost actually ended up with about 100 fewer votes, and the two candidates that won ended up with like another 200 votes each. And so the swing, the discrepancy was 6%. And so the Secretary of State's office identified that information, did some of their own investigation, and then handed it over to the Attorney General's office. That investigation is ongoing. The few media reports that exist kind of vaguely point the finger at the voting machines, and I think that comes from some other states that use voting machines that are linked to the internet and have complex software. One of the reasons our Secretary of State, who's been in his position for many decades, refuses to change the voting system, specifically these AccuVote machines, which are also decades old, is because they're so simple and they've been so effective. So the conventional wisdom is that the discrepancy is human error and not an error of the machines, but I trust the Attorney General's office will identify that. I wouldn't be surprised if to rule that out, the Attorney General's office conducted some other review of votes in other communities. They haven't said anything such at this point, but that would be up to them. We hold on to the ballots locally, but anything that's done with the ballots after the election is up to the state. So just kind of an interesting story. I know a couple of members that had piqued their interest. So that's kind of the review of the information that's available at this point, and happy to continue following it and report back to the board and community.
Excellent. Can we request a recount as the town?
The recount period is over.
No, for the state. I know that you can't do it. We can't do it ourselves. The state will have to do it. But, can we call and inquire, go, hey, we want to get ours checked out too?
So what I mean is the results are finalized. So there's a 10-day window to request a recount, and that's expired. So the recount is that standard procedure for requesting a recount has expired.
So there's no steps we can take from this point forward. Interesting, though, is that the candidate requesting the recount actually lost by a larger margin. It'll be interesting to see if there's any other variances in the future that have been identified. I do feel that our town's process, have you all sat through the hand counts before?
Yeah.
I've sat side by side with Select Person Bailey on this. It's an excruciating process, but one that's extremely important, and it requires certification by not one individual, but two, and then a sign off. So yeah, there's quite the audit process for hand ballots that I'll indicate. And anybody else who's sat through hand counts, you know exactly what I'm saying.
It's commonly known as a vacuum cleaner syndrome.
It's a pretty arduous process. Thank you though for the select board members that noted it, and thank you, Connor, for the update on it. So I think next up, I got to pull up the agenda again. I'm sorry, I'm using an electronic version of Connor's report.
Select person reports.
Sorry, what did I say? Connor's report?
I was just saying, then next is select board reports.
Yeah, so report out for committees, anniversary. No, we've already done those at the first select board meeting in February, so we'll get them again in March, but we only read them once. But while I have you, Select Person Bailey, if you can do a report out for any of your committees.
Well, I will tell you, my last meeting with the library, I felt like I was a red-headed, ugly stepchild. I really, you can wave, I know how it is. I've had some issues and some accusations and what have you, and I answered them all as best I could. But just to let you know that they're still receiving donations for the library, which they voted to put in. It seems that everything else is going along well. There's still some discussion on new business coming up with the piece. They had a individual Dan Ayer with 2/3 funding plan decision vote, and I really don't understand what that is. Maybe the chair or somebody else can explain that, but they talked about that, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And I'm only bringing it up, and I don't think we should discuss it until Mr. Ayer is available. And then we had a very, very strong talk about the warrant article concerning the library, and it took the help of TA Connor to work this out with a date. The problem was, the claim was that they were not notified until the night before the deliberative session of the way that the verbiage was on the article. And Connor and myself, I brought it back as far as January, and Connor brought it up further and followed through with a letter to the chair to explain to the chair of the library piece that it was there. So it was quite difficult at times, but I must say we weathered the storm, and I really want to have the chair aware of that, and also for the help that Connor provided on going back to the very first time during our sessions for warrant articles that was discussed, and so hopefully that took care of it. Other than that, the library is doing a tremendous job. They have some planning they're looking to do for different items and what have you. They're trying to figure out how the use of the computer can be used. But other than that, thank you very much. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Vice Chair Knapp?
So the planning board met last Tuesday. At the meeting, there was a request for extension for 1 year to allow the applicant who is awaiting DOT and New Hampshire DES permits for 125, the Route 125 Development LLC. Also, there was a request by applicant to amend the site review building footprint for the municipal building for the town hall on Caliph Highway for the Route 125 development. Or I guess we didn't actually have to do that one if I remember correctly on it.
Right.
But it was on the agenda there. And then there was a pretty good discussion around the master plan and the land use and zoning questions that we have, and which questions we would want to ask of the attorney. That way we're effective with the attorney's time, and we're not wasting our attorney's time and our resources, also known as money in this case, with those questions.
Excellent. Select person Sakosha report out?
Select person Sakosha, I did not sit in the meeting with Jessie. I know she's on, I think she's on right now. I see a JT, but I did not have a chance to touch base with her this week and see how that they are doing.
Okay. I think there was a family skate last Friday. I'm not sure. Did that take place over at the Christmas Dove in collaboration with their pond?
It was tremendously successful.
Yay!
They were especially proud, as am I, of how successful they were in targeting a relatively tough age group to program for, the kind of middle school age. So they had over 100 folks show up for that.
Excellent.
And the only thing that I'll mention rec related is on March 6th, starting at 10 a.m. is the before and after school care registration for this coming year. So that's a Google form. The information is on the Recreation Department's website, very well advertised, and they'll be announcing placements starting on March 9th, which is Tuesday. So anybody looking for before and after school care through their program, be prepared for a 10 a.m. virtual registration on March 6th.
Excellent. Thank you. I was in a ready 3.5 hour long grant session this afternoon, so I did not attend the transfer station committee meeting. 3.5 hours was mind-boggling. Anyway, I was busy with that today, so my apologies to the transfer committee, but they're finalizing some of their communications and some of their decision making around both the contractors in town, and still working on many of the items that they began this committee for. And again, are looking for our support in a strong way, so that the work that they're doing is meaningful. And I think, Peter spoke in a very clear way, but I sensed a bit of frustration. They really are doing a tremendous amount of work, and have been tasked with doing the best they can to provide the best services and keep costs as low as possible. Select Person Bailey, did you want to speak before we go to public comment?
Yes, I did, and I just want to say that they are doing a wonderful job, and I had one individual, actually 3 individuals, call my house this afternoon, asking to have more than just 2 stickers for the dump permit and what have you. And I relayed that to Connor, and then when I called the individuals back, so now what they were doing, they were mixing up personal use along with their company use. And so that's where the whole issue came from, and I have not had a chance to relay that to Connor, but I'm picking this time to do it. So they have a clear understanding now that it's 2 and 2, so they're all set with it. And I'm sure that when they get back to it, they'll be with Connor and with the treasurer and turn around and go that way. Thank you for the comment.
Good. Okay, so next up is our last public comment session, 15 minutes long, 3 minutes per person. If you're a member of the Barrington community who'd like to speak, or if you are operating a business in Barrington and would like to speak, you can mouse over your screen. In the upper right-hand corner is a hand icon. If you click on it, it will alert us you'd like to speak. And if you're attending by telephone, you can unmute your phone by pressing *6. Give yourself a couple of seconds and then speak and let us know that you'd like to speak during public comment. Other than that, do we have a non-public for purposes of personnel?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to pause for about 30 seconds. Connor, let me know if you see anyone who'd like to speak during public comment.
While we wait, I'll just let the community know that there was a tremendously successful candidate forum last Thursday, which was recorded and is available on the town's YouTube channel. So 2 of the select board candidates participated, and all 3 of the school board candidates participated. Special thanks to Ron St. Jean for putting it on. I think at the peak there were something like 45 people participating live. There were a lot of great questions and good answers. The moderator did a good job keeping it short and sweet, 45 minutes for each organization. And again, that recording is available on the town's YouTube channel if you're looking for some additional information to make your decision on March 9th.
Okay.
And I see no requests for comment.
Okay, so go ahead, Select Person Bailey.
While we're at it, we have, I believe, voting is on March 9th.
Yes.
And we have our last select board meeting before that on March 8th, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I will meet you all over. Actually, could I have a motion to enter non-public for purpose of personnel?
Motion.
I have a motion from Select Person Sakosha. I had a second immediately by Vice Chair Knapp. And at 7:24, we will enter non-public for purpose of personnel. Connor, will we be coming back out to report anything?
You need to come back out to close the meeting.
Okay,
I doubt that there'll be anything to report, but you will need to come back and close.
Okay, very good. So it's now 7:25 and we'll enter non-public, and we will be coming back out to close after that. Thank you all.
Hello.
Ew!
Hello.
I need at least one more select board member, so let me know when they join. Hey, were you taping our non-public?
No.
Okay, I got George, I got Jim. Very good. So the select board is reporting out that a motion was made at 9:19 to exit non-public. The report out that we have is that the select board has in its entirety completed the performance review of the town administrator and will be reporting that out to the town administrator in the next couple of weeks after we do a beautiful administrative job of pulling it all together.
You're muted.
Are we gonna, are our comments, that's all we need, okay.
That's all that we need. Thank you so much. And
Make motion to adjourn.
thank you. Second.
I'll second it. Jim, you're muted, just so you know. Oh, looks like you're
And a
muted.
roll call vote to exit the meeting.
George, aye.
Nap, aye.
Koshai.
Shake
Hardikoff,
your head,
aye.
Jim, that's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you all. And I will be in touch with you, Connor.